Hey, you wild women. Okay, today we're talking about the illusion of control and letting go of predictability. This came up in a conversation that I had with a friend a few months ago about how we need to stop thinking that everything is predictable. Here's a perfect example. Going into motherhood, you've read all the books, you have all the friends that have had kids, you maybe have siblings that have had children, you're the best auntie in the world. And you think that because you've been exposed to what it means to be a parent, that you can predict everything. And then what happens is that when something starts to get out of control as a mother, you end up getting frustrated, you get anxiety, you get anger, because it's not the way you thought it was going to be. And so when we hold on so tight to thinking something has to be a certain way, maybe it was how we were raised, maybe it was the expectations we have as a wife or as a partner, that when things don't become predictable and when we think we have control, what's really happening is we're really just stepping into this big illusion. And I want to talk about this because it hit home with me and really understanding why I stepped out of the world of PR and all the work I've done to be able to come forward and finally have the courage and confidence to launch my big event, the Pink Skirt Project, which is happening June 12th in Kelowna, BC. 300 women, one incredible day, an incredible experience. Of course, I'm going to plug it now. So go to thepinkskirtproject.com and check it out, thepinkskirtproject.com. Check it out. Sign up, grab your tickets. We are already sold out of the Thrive tickets, but there are still many Rise tickets left, although those are actually selling pretty quickly. And, looking at it from an unpredictable perspective, I'm actually quite pleased with how these tickets are selling. So I'm at ease with this whole process because I understand stepping into something that I've never done before. We have this illusion of these expectations of how it might turn out. But I think I'm aware enough to know that it could fail. But so far, it's looking pretty fun. So if you haven't already bought your ticket, go now, do it. June 12th in Kelowna, BC, thepinkskirtproject.com. Anyway, time for the question. I want to know, when was the last time you felt completely in control of your business? Maybe it was when you first started. Maybe it was last week. Maybe it was this morning. When was the last time you actually hit all your goals, all the targets you set out for your business? Do you still feel like maybe you're waiting for something, waiting for a moment when everything will fall into place? This could be even outside of business, in parenting, as you just walk out in the world. When we develop this muscle, this ability to actually be okay with how things unfold, even if it's not what you predicted, that's when you're like next level entrepreneur. So here's the truth that nobody actually talks about. That feeling of control that you're chasing because it's comfortable, it's actually a mirage. It's an illusion. And I know this because I've lived this. I spent years chasing this perfection myself. I built systems. I created detailed playbooks. I created spreadsheets and charts that spoke to each other, and all these beautiful things, all these labels, all these templates, all in the pursuit of this elusive sense of certainty. Because I thought, if I could create these systems, these playbooks, it would create certainty in my life. It would give me my time back, because I'm buying back my time, and that things can just become more at ease. And there's truth in that. The only truth that comes from it, though, is an understanding that in creating this ease in these systems and processes and playbooks is for me to focus on the things that I'm actually really good at, but still understanding that most things in life are just unpredictable. And so we need to get off this horse of predictability and be okay with things as they come. So here's what's really fascinating. And I actually see this with entrepreneurs all the time. The more desperate we try to control everything, the more opportunities we miss. The more we try to make things predictable, the more we actually put our business, our lives, our relationships at risk. It's kind of like trying to steer a ship by anchoring it to the harbor. Sure, it feels safe there, but we know that's not what ships are for. You know that expression? Ships are safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are for. They're meant to go out into the ocean and deliver things or across lakes and do things. It's not predictable out there. But ships know that. They're safe in harbor. They're not safe out there. But they ain't doing anything when they're docked up at the dock. So today, really quickly, I'm going to challenge everything you may think about control, about certainty, about what success really is. And I'm going to show you a couple simple tips on how to better protect yourself and protect your business from things that might be holding you back from your breakthroughs because you're too hung up on what is predictable. Let's start out first with this thing called the comfort zone paradox. With the illusion of control, right? We talked about this. People tend to overestimate their ability to control events and outcomes, and many aspects are clearly beyond their influence. There's a couple things that I've listed under this as I jotted my notes in my morning pages. One is understanding prediction versus control, which I call the prediction versus control trap. It's a trap. We confuse being able to predict something with being able to control it. So this often leads to over planning and rigid strategies. So because you think you've predicted something, it could be gambling, or you've predicted so-and-so falling in love, or this new client coming in, you think that you have control over the situation because you think you're predicting it. And we look at previous patterns like, well, if these three things happened in consecutive order, that means either the fourth time it happens, it's going to happen exactly as it did, or if you're a gambler, it will be the opposite. So we think by putting these predictions forward, it allows us to have more control because control feels safe. Now, the other thing is the expertise trap. And I might categorize this under imposter syndrome. The more knowledge you have about something can actually increase your illusion of control. The more we know, the more we think we can manage every variable, right? I'm going to use doctors as example. Sure, doctors probably have more predictability over a disease or over how to heal than the average human. However, doctors who aren't consistently or constantly updating their knowledge in the field of medicine actually have less control. So the best doctors are the ones that are actually understanding the research, doing the research, reading it, and improving their methods on how to be a better doctor and how to practice medicine better. So the more that we know, right, the more we think we can actually control more of the variables. So what does that mean for you? So I'm going to share a story a little bit about when it came to my agency, the first agency that I ran called Onboardly. When we first started, we were, as I say, a demand marketing agency. What we did was we created demand for somebody's product. We did content marketing, social media, and public relations because we thought those all three played well together. And it's true, they all do. But we were a small team. And what we ended up doing was too many things at once. So we couldn't actually measure the work that we were doing properly. We were so overworked. So after a few years and we had enough data to really understand how our business was operating and how well it was doing, we realized that our best return on investment, the ROI, the profit margins, was actually putting our efforts into only doing public relations, only doing PR, stripping away social, stripping away content. So for us, it actually became more predictable. Here is the predicament for me, is that now I am the co-founder of a public relations agency. I've never had any experience in PR at this point, never done it, never wrote a press release, never pitched the media a day in my life. And I was in this like a stage in my business where because of my expertise in the other categories, I felt like such an imposter. And so it's kind of the opposite too. But my team, who had experience in it, things were more predictable for them. The interesting thing, and I think what made us successful in these moments, was coming in and realizing that they had this experience in PR and I didn't. So being that new person in an industry, I was looking for new methods and new ways of doing things. Because if things become more predictable, then you think you have more control over it in the world of agency life. You create your systems, you have the methods in which you do things because it's the way it's always been done. And no one on the team was kind of shaking things up. So I came in and said, hey, maybe there's a different way of doing this. And we did. And it was very cool. We were very profitable. Mind you, it's the world of PR. It's still overwhelming. It was still kind of fun. So the other trap is called the comfort zone reinforcement trap. We all know this, comfort zone reinforcement. It's Friday after work. And if you're a 40-something-year-old mom, if you're anything like me, what you want to do is go home, throw on your comfies, and probably Netflix and chill, or be with your kids and play board games. Because that is just that's your comfort zone. It's so predictable. But what about stepping outside of that? When we stay in situations where we feel in control, we can't grow. And it also creates this false sense of stability. We become mediocre. In the world of business, this could mean refusing to delegate. Put your hand up if you've been there. Put one hand up if you're driving, other one's on the wheel. You have this false sense of stability because you refuse to delegate. Right? We think I can do it better. So why delegate if I can do it better? I will tell you, my perspective, 9 times out of 10, the person in which I delegate to does a better job anyway. And here's a funny story. I've been working with my incredible assistant, Morgan, now for, it'll be 2 years this year sometime. I don't even know. It'll be 2 years and a bit, maybe 3. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. And I only just opened my inbox to her, so delegated my inbox at my previous agency 3 months ago, maybe a little bit more. And I only gave her access to my calendar a month ago. And we created parameters around when she can book things. This is crazy. My husband wrote the book, Buy Back Your Time. But I was so worried to delegate to her because I was worried she was going to overschedule me, which, by the way, can't happen because we've created boundaries. She knows when she can and cannot delegate. She knows the parameters about commute time and all this stuff. I was worried that she would screw up, has not done that. Little baby mistakes. We all make mistakes. And now all of a sudden, I'm saying, hey, Morgan, can you work with so-and-so to coordinate me on this call? Or like having the person with the blind installers come over. And I finally let go. And as you kind of ease yourself out of these predictable patterns that you've created, this rigid structure, things become so much more fun. And life is so much more beautiful when you actually delegate. And most of the time people do things better than you anyway. So we cling to familiar patterns in life and business because our brains are literally wired to go towards what is familiar. Our known routines, they require less cognitive energy. That's why my husband has what I call the Dan Martell tuxedo. He wears the same blue shirt and pants pretty much every day. If not, there's just variations of it, but it's the same thing. Why? Because it's one less thing he has to think about in the day. Of all the things we have to decide in a day, I'm the opposite. I actually go into my closet and I'm like, what is my mood like today? Because it's always different. So I'm a woman. I'm like, what do I feel like wearing today? And then it's on my mind. Like I'm putting on my makeup this morning. I was like, do I wear this shirt? It's cold outside. Maybe I should wear. I was using energy deciding what to wear. When at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. For me, it's not that big of a deal. So we've created these neural pathways that make familiar actions feel more neutral and natural and safe, right? We default to just wanting to be safe. And so we create this predictable life. And then we have this incredible illusion of control because everything is predictable. Your comfort zone isn't actually comfortable. It's slowly suffocating your business growth, your personal growth, your parenting growth. Your comfort zone isn't actually comfortable. I think about all the times when I've had to kind of step outside that boundary of what I think is safe. Skydiving, for instance. I'm like, heck no, I'm not launching myself out of a plane. Why would I do that? And this was 20 years ago, by the way. Would I do it today? I don't know. I feel like there's other things that I could try before doing that again. But in the moment, I understood the predictability of the entire event. We'd get on a plane, and I was in tandem. So I was actually strapped to another person who had a shoot and a reserve shoot. And we did the training before and we did all this stuff. So the predictability was that the weather was great. We're going to go up. We're going to launch ourselves out of this plane at 14 or 16,000 feet. And we're going to land on a beach and there's going to be no issue. But of course, during training, they teach you about all these little things where if something does go wrong, and of course you're signing a waiver saying you could die doing this. You could die just breathing today. So the moment that I stepped outside this comfort zone, because I went to this little town in Australia where all my buddies, they were all skydiving and I was the only one who decided not to do it. Anyway, that was predictable. I could predictably watch them land. I could predictably be comfortable in my bikini, maybe drinking a beer on the beach, because that's what I did back in the day. But when I said, this is so unpredictable for me, realistically, this is unpredictable, was when it scared the crap out of me, but it also was the most exhilarating experience of my life. Most exhilarating experience. Think about those memories baked into our mind were typically things that scared us, but ended up being the most rewarding things. So here are some things that these illusions that we tell ourselves. So one is, I need everything to be perfect before I start. When people are going to plan to have a child, I need all these things to be right before I even try to have a child. And I don't want to go down this path because that journey for many, many people is so gut-wrenching. And I've seen it firsthand with friends, but just saying in these moments of like, hey, I need all these things to be in order before I even start means you're just pushing against your own limiting beliefs. Because there's no such thing as perfection. Like perfect conditions don't exist. And for me, it's launching the Pink Skirt Project. Most people would start this by doing maybe a half day or one day event with 20 people, or maybe 100 people. How I did it was I had my heart set on this venue locally here that I love it. And when I told them the setup that we wanted for the venue, she said, yeah, we can fit 350 people. And I was like, okay, so then my goal is to sell 350 tickets. Isn't that crazy? I was like, oh, it can't be that hard. And then when I actually stepped back and I looked at it, I thought to myself, oh gosh, this is so difficult. It's so unpredictable. All these things could go wrong. So what I did to create this illusion of control is I got to work right away. I was ahead of the game when I was calling up vendors, calling up affiliates and partners and people who are in this space. They're like, wow, you're way ahead of the game. So I started so early with this perfect spreadsheet and all these like little notes with everything. Like looked really in control. It's because I'm organized, but it was an illusion because, hey, you can always talk about the what ifs too. There's always the what ifs the photographer pulls out the last minute, or what if, 3 people couldn't make a flight and they want their tickets refunded, all these what ifs. Then all of a sudden I lose control. And the moment I lose control, I feel like, oh, I've been failure. I'm a failure. I shouldn't do this. I'm just going to cancel the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Have you been there before? Sat with yourself in those moments when you're like, I should just not do it to begin with because all these things could go wrong, right? Well, it's a paradox. The other illusion that we often tell ourselves is something like this. If I can control everything, then nothing will go wrong, right? Like I just said, innovation requires for you to embrace uncertainty, obviously. The more you try to control, the more you limit your growth. I have not read it yet, but I've listened to a ton of Mel Robbins interviews about her book, The Let Them Theory. And let me tell you, it's just been so releasing for me to say, let them. So photographer cancels, let them. Fun fact, for our wedding back in 2015, the first thing that I did was I booked the photographer because he was a photographer friend of ours who was like world renowned. He did like National Geographic stuff. And I was like, that's cool. I want a different perspective. I don't just want your typical wedding photography. And it was only, and I kept in reminding him, like this was like way ahead of time, reminding him, and he did our engagement shoot and all this stuff. And he bailed. Was it like 3 weeks before our wedding? And I panicked. We're like, where am I going to find a photographer that isn't going to cost me $1,000,000,000? Well, it turns out that one of our guests, her name's Kelly, one of our guests coming to the wedding is a wedding photographer. At the time, she was doing wedding photography. She stepped in immediately when she found out. And my first reaction was, no, I want you to be a guest. We ended up finding an even more perfect photographer. Isn't it funny how these things happen? Not only this person showed up with his assistant the day before the wedding, he just rolled right in and fit right in like he was already a part of our family. So he understood the pictures he needed to take, the videos he needed to shoot. It just happened organically. So sometimes letting go of control and just understanding that stuff's going to happen actually invites better opportunity. The other illusion we tell ourselves is something like this: my current situation is stable and predictable. So I'm good. I'm safe. This is great. I'm not going to change anything. Why would I change my routine? Why would I change what league I sign my kids up to? Why would I change the work that I do or the assistant that I have? Because everything is just so predictable today. I know when they're going to come into work. I know when they're going to leave on Friday. I know the emails they're going to send, the questions they're going to have. Like, how boring is that? We're entrepreneurs for a reason. We are entrepreneurs for a reason. If things start to become way too predictable, it's time to shake things up. Not throw grenades into your business, but it's time to level up. That's like your number one indicator. You can't grow if you stay too stable. Kind of like building a muscle. If you're going to the gym and you give up right when it starts to hurt, there's no point. Like, why are you even there? Your workouts, just like being a mother or a wife or an entrepreneur, this is all designed to transform you. Everything in life is designed to transform you, not keep you the same. That should be your goal. Your goal should be transformation, not complacency. So get off the couch. Let's go. So here are some hidden costs of control. As you probably know, you miss opportunities. You stunt your innovation. You burn out or your team burns out. And that happened to me. My team burnt out. I was burning out because I was trying to be in control. You know, those friends of yours, and maybe this is you, I really hope not. Those friends of yours, everything seems organized, right? Their kids are always put together with their polished hair. They're always the ones at the PTA meetings with the perfect muffins. Their kids never have ripped clothes. Just everything's in order. I guarantee you that person is so addicted to control that inside they're dying. They're burning out. Now, there's a lot of women who are great at these things. Don't get me wrong. But when things are just so obviously predictable, there's probably some sort of correlation to burnout. So here's the last thing, or a couple last things. So signs that you're operating from fear rather than strategy. Fear being the predictability. 1, you micromanage all the time. Every single detail, you micromanage. You refuse to delegate. You avoid big decisions, or you take forever to make a decision. And that you will often stay in toxic situations because it's so familiar to you and you're afraid of the unknown. Now, I always tell the story. So if you're a longtime listener, you know when I was sued for wrongful dismissal from a woman who was a toxic employee the whole time she was employed, and I knew it from the beginning, but she was a great worker when she worked. The problem I had was that if I let her go, it was going to disrupt things. It was going to shake things up. The business was growing. We were doing well. We were super profitable. I couldn't predict what would happen if we let her go. But guess what did? Other than being sued for wrongful dismissal, our profit margins went up. Our team did better work. There was less burnout in the team. Our clients enjoyed us more. It's crazy. You got to do the scary thing when you know it's not right, or remove yourself from a situation when you know it's not right. So here's the freedom framework for letting go of all this crap that you do not need to control. Acknowledge that it's an illusion, right? List what you actually can control versus what you think you can control. And embrace strategic risk. How to differentiate yourself between reckless and calculated risks. What is reckless? Reckless is making a massive, big decision without actually doing work and research because you're trying to be more decisive. Calculated is like, geez, if this is a $50,000 investment, I think you need some research. But also know when they're tiny decisions, how fast you need to make them. So what is the risk and what is the strategy? You need to build resilience through all your small wins and through all your small changes and all these small decisions. Celebrate something every single day. There is something worth celebrating. There is power in incremental expansion with small wins. Create those little safety nets for all those bold moves too, and step forward. So here are your action steps. 1 is the control audit, and 2 is the uncertainty challenge. So the control audit is where you identify 3 areas where you think you're over controlling, and then list the possible opportunities if you loosen the grip. So what is one thing? Maybe it could be your kids' hockey schedule. It could be controlling the meetings, the agenda of what's discussed. It could be where money is invested in the company or at home, where you think that you're the only person that can control the situation. But you know deep down it's something that's just stopping you. It's pulling you back. In my life, gosh, I'd have to think about this, but I do think it's like signing my kids up for summer camp. Oh, I let go of that last year and it actually didn't work out too well. Not because of who I delegated to. I just think signing kids up for summer camp is, God, the hardest thing in parenting. DM me on Instagram, Renee_Warren, if you totally understand what I mean by that. And then take this uncertainty challenge. Take one small action every day that pushes you beyond that comfort zone. And if you have not read the book, Buy Back Your Time by my husband, take it. In the first couple chapters, if you don't have an assistant, he's going to teach you how to delegate, which is hands down the most important thing you can do. And if you don't have an assistant, you need to go check out our sponsors, Linked VA, LINKEDVA.com. My gal Amy is the founder of this company, and she has a roster of incredibly talented assistants to help you with your business, to help you grow, to get your time back from content stuff to accounting stuff to calendar and email management. Any step forward you can take in expanding the time you have to actually work on the thing that you were really good at, the gift that was given to you, do that. You need to hire an assistant. It's the only way forward. Linked VA is a great place to start. So go check them out. Linked VA. Their link is in the show notes. And I want to leave you with this little quote. Growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, not in the middle of it. So what are you doing today to step outside of it? So until next time, ladies, peace out.